Reminds me when I decided to join the Army, I told people I was joining the Army, they said, you don't want to go into the Army. That's for big people. It's for people who can bench press a Buick and so on. It's not for little Weasley characters like you. And then when you're in the crucible of battle and all the bullets and shrapnel are flying around, everybody tries to get to be about this big. Or disappear altogether. If I were 2 inches taller, I'd be dead. So I really like being a very small person. And now that I'm retired, I've been retired for some time, I realize it's useful being small, even now. We're all concerned about the environment. I have a very small carbon footprint. I can wear kids' clothes, for example. So I'm right in with the times. But when I came into the Army, it was silly for a very small person to be in the service because you had to be big and strong. And in fact, what you really need to survive in combat is the love of your fellow soldiers. At the end of the day, the only thing that really matters in the crucible of combat is your love for each other. When I was decorated, and it's been a long time now, the action was in 1968, and the award ceremony was in 1969. There were almost 380 living recipients of the Medal of Honor. The first dinner I attended, my table mates included Commando Kelly, who was the first living recipient from the European theater in the Second World War, Pappy Boynton, the Marine aviator who told me that he never flew sober. He was never sober when I talked to him. He wasn't flying at the time. And Eddie Rickenbacker, the ace from the First World War. And in the room at the dinner was a guy named Bill Seach, who charged the Citadel at Beijing and planted the American flag on top of the parapet in 1900 during the Boxer Rebellion. He was still alive. They're all gone now. There are now 76 of us, and I'm one of the younger ones. I've been on Medicare a long time, and I'm one of the younger guys. We have only about 10 or 11 young kids from the current war, and even they're not all that young anymore. Many of them are pushing 40, which to me sounds, I've got socks younger than that, older than that, but they're not all that young anymore. All those guys are gone now. And I remember that at that dinner, I was told by Jimmy Doolittle, who was at the dinner. He put his arm around me and took me into a corner after the dinner was over. And he said, young man, he said, you're no longer Jack Jacobs. You're Jack Jacobs Medal of Honor recipient, and you need to comport yourself accordingly. It dawned on me at that time that the medal had then and still today has nothing to do with me. As one of my fellow recipients from Vietnam said about his battle, he said there are 3 grieving mothers still whose sons were every bit as brave. Another recipient named Nikki Bacon, also gone, said we don't wear the medal for ourselves. We wear it for all those who can't. It's not ours. We hold it in trust for generations and as a representative of the valor of all the other people who are not here to talk to you about it, to talk to anybody about it. Because they were sacrificed on the field of battle, and they were sacrificed for all of us, for everybody in the United States. We owe our freedom to the valor of people who are not here anymore. I joined the Army because I thought then, and I still think today, that everybody who's lucky enough to live in a free country owes it something in the form of service. I came into the Army to serve for 3 years and then get out and go to law school, but I stayed because I loved the people. I thought the mission was important, and the mission is important, but I really loved the people, and I didn't want to be away from them. Interestingly, when I went into the Army, my mother said, "What are you doing going into the Army? You should be a banker," or something like that. 20 years later, I called her up and said I was retiring from the Army to become a banker. And she said, "What are you doing that for? You have this great career in the Army." You can't satisfy your parents, and the only person you have to satisfy is yourself. It's certainly true that combat is a fearful thing. I don't know anybody who wasn't scared in combat. If somebody tells you he was in combat but he was not scared, he's either a lion dog or he's a psycho. One of those two things. And because they're not mutually exclusive, he could be both of those things. So I have children whose in-laws are a bit like that. Everybody has children whose in-laws are like that. Only Jews have a word for your kids' in-laws. It tells you a great deal about them. No, I was always scared when I was in combat. And when I wasn't in combat, I was scared that I would soon be in combat. There was a Medal of Honor recipient named Bud Hawk from the Second World War. He's gone now, too. He said something very interesting about the whole notion of fear in combat. He said the absence of fear is merely the absence of intelligence. And the crux of valor, whether it's recognized or not, is the ability to overcome fear and, in spite of the fear, do what you need to do, because you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for everybody else. All of us who served in combat know that this is true. That you're nothing unless you're part of an organization that's taking care of each other. And you have to take care of yourself last. It always reminds me of an observation of Benjamin Franklin, who once said, he said, "We shall hang together, we must hang together, or we will surely hang separately." And anybody who's been in a combat situation will tell you exactly the same thing. Nobody does anything for himself. We do it for our country, but most of all, we do it for each other. You learn to love people in the most difficult of circumstances. And if you can't learn to give in circumstances like that, then you'll never learn to give at all. I want to thank you for giving, for being part of an organization that believes in the tenets that made this country great. That our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have represented now for, 240 years or so. And that is, it's not enough to take care of yourself. It's much more important to take care of each other and take care of others who can't. At the end of the day, that's what made this country great. That's what makes all great countries great. And it's because of your duty, your service, that other people are going to be able to enjoy some of the fruits of your skill. I want to encourage you to continue to do that. Most importantly, to get others to participate in this noble effort. That makes your profession great. That makes this country great. And I want to thank you for what you've done. But most important, I want to thank you for what you're going to do. God bless you.